Today we're going to be talking about how Funcom is changing the lore and why that's a good thing. If you haven't seen the most recent movies, here there'll be spoilers, so consider yourself warned. So in the timeline for Dune Awakening, the devs have said that will be in an alternate timeline, and this was agreed on between Funcom and the Herbert estate. I know this will upset some people, but I get why. I mean, it's an amazing story. We already know how that story plays out. Who lives, who dies, the movers and shakers. I love the idea of being on Arrakis and not being predestined to anything. My choices will matter. It's an MMO and we need it to be open. We need some surprises to keep interest. They've said that there is religion, but the player isn't the Messiah, and I like that too. Everyone running around thinking they're the chosen one? That doesn't interest me. Religion is totally in the game though, because it's a means of political control. Here's where the conversation about the books and the movies got interesting to me at least, and that's what the whole point of the story and the threads and how we got there, and it becomes why change the lore. Some people do point out that there's an element of white savior in the story, and this bugs some people, rightfully so, if that were the whole of it. A white savior is a white person who helps non-white people for reasons that are self-serving, such as being admired. But that's not what this is here. Here, it's part of the story and it's required. While the Bene Gesserit have been breeding lines and noble houses to get that Kwisatz Haderach that would sit on the throne for them, the prophecy they planted on Arrakis specifically said that the Lisan al-Gaib had to be from off-world. It's vital for the Fremen to accept a foreign leader, and this kept them under control. If only a foreign leader could save them, anyone else who tried to save themselves and failed would be told it's because they weren't the Muad'Dib, and it was always doomed to fail. And the Fremen were xenophobic. To get them to accept this noble-born foreigner, the Bene Gesserit had to set a stage. He had to arrive with his mother, his Bene Gesserit mother. He had to know the Weirding Way, via his mother of course, and to know the ways of the desert. Paul's innate curiosity led him that way. Think of it, none of the Harkonnens had bothered to learn anything about the Fremen, considering them animals in the desert. But Leto knew he needed to win hearts and minds to gain that desert power and instill that in Paul, and to do that he had to study them and to learn about them and their language and their customs, as much as an outsider can in a short time. Paul is the Kwisatz Haderach, and I can't help but wonder if the Bene Gesserit were surprised at his attitude, given they made him. But they made him see all of space and time, and they seemed to think that would paint them in a more positive way. He did what they wanted though, and that was set the stage for someone on the golden path and place them on the throne, even if that doesn't go as expected. But I can't help but wonder, did they not realize that people would just not let him sit on the throne without a fight? I mean, to make all of humanity ascend in some way was surely going to be a painful process. Does it not make Paul the hero that he didn't want to cause that suffering? The two thoughts, the Kwisatz Haderach and the Lisan al-Gaib, work together because they came out of the Bene Gesserit manipulation. The focus of the movies being on the liberation of the Fremen and control of Arrakis and the spice, not focusing too much on the Bene Gesserit as those trying to hold the puppet strings. To say Paul is a white savior, kinda sorta yes. But to be clear, this isn't Dances with Wolves in Space, but a design in the prophecy. The Kwisatz Haderach was a creation that had to come from the great houses and not Arrakis. Paul doesn't seem to want to lead them, at least not the way that they want him to, not at first. The uber nerds will have read the books many times and have watched every movie and know every bit of lore, could likely expand on this for days, and that's why it's important to change the lore. We know all of that already. This is why the player isn't the Messiah. The lore is tangled, and the long-term fans know that we can get stuck on details like this instead of seeing a new picture that Funcom is trying to paint for the players. There's a lot of lore, and the books cover generations, and that's just the original books. Then throw in another 20 or so since then, and it's just too much. I'm glad Funcom is taking things in this direction, giving us a new story to learn and explore, and I honestly just can't wait for this game to come out.